Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Bog Panda. No tangents this time. I am Dr. Mike at Official Pagan on everything. Joining me, as always,
Hi, I'm laser focused Kelly Tool at KELLYTHUL on Twitter and Instagram. And if you get a chance, we'd appreciate it if you'd stop by the Bog Panda YouTube channel, subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, watch a few of the videos, whether you like music. We talk a lot about Alice Cooper. We've got a lot of stuff about retro gaming, pop culture stuff on occasion, and it's also home of the world's shortest podcast, Hard No. So lots of goodies out there for you to check. But and check out our merch store where there's some pretty cool t-shirts. But enough of this stuff that's off topic. Let's run right into our very specific topic that we had a hard time in a previous show getting to, but we're not going to fail this time.
absolutely not. So, there's some videos floating around. Somebody got their hands on one of the new arcade one-up cabinets, which is, as we've discussed on here before, they're reissuing a lot of older cabinets just with some slight redesigns and things like that, which is fine if you don't have those. But for the people who already have those or already have the cabinets they were interested in, it seemed like their big, announcements were not that great because there wasn't anything really new coming other than the casino cade, which I'm getting more interested in as time get like the more I think about it, I'm like, that could be kind of cool. Uh so maybe more on that later. But somebody got their hands on one early, apparently, and apparently in the book there's an ad for some of these other reissues coming up, including a stand-up Fast and the Furious cabinet. A lot of people are excited about this. I have to be honest with you, I've never played the Fast and Furious game. Have you, Kelly?
I have not.
Now, are you even a fan of the film franchise?
I'm not, and it's never been something that's super appealing to me. Even though Vin Diesel's one of the most underrated actors in the universe. I think he's the Robert De Niro of our time. But then you have Dwayne Johnson join the program later, who believes he's the Robert De Niro of our time. And so I just too many De Niro's for me. So no, I just haven't got into it.
I've seen a couple of them. I really held off on it. I had no interest when the first movie came out. One, and this will play into my thoughts on the game as well. I'm not big on driving related stuff. And maybe as we've talked about, I don't drive. So maybe that's a part of it, but there's just limited appeal for me in there. Um, I don't hate all of it. There's games that I like Road Rash, which is a motorcycle racing game. I love those games. There's also one of my favorite movies is Vanishing Point. The entire movie essentially is just a car chase. There's a few minute bumper in the beginning that sets up the story, and then the rest of the movie is a car chase. So it's not that I'm against that kind of content in general. I just don't gravitate towards it. So, and for anybody who doesn't know, Fast and the Furious is a remake of a Roger Corman movie from the 70s. Essentially, they wanted the title, so they bought the rights to it, making him an executive producer, I believe, of the first movie. So it's the highest grossing Roger Corman movie, if you want to look at it that way. The guy who brought us a lot of those Sci-Fi Channel original movies. The movie has nothing to do with his Fast and the Furious, though. They just wanted to use the title. So I just had no real interest. I'm usually not a fan of remakes, even though I understood this was basically in title only. I think there's a character name that they use, but that's it. So just very limited appeal. I did eventually watch a couple of them on cable. They were slightly better than I thought they were, but it didn't win me over either.
Yeah, so we've talked about it before. I'm probably not as far down the dislike or non-interest of Mike in terms of driving games because I do actually drive. And so, but in terms of arcade experience, those don't typically bubble to the top for me. There are, and it's mostly home console games and stuff like that. But although Rush is available both as an arcade and home console, Rush is a good one. Simpsons Hit and Run's good. I'll do that. Crazy Taxi. Those kinds of things are
Does
fun.
Grand Theft Auto count? I guess there is a good amount of driving in that.
There's many things in Grand Theft Auto, but
There's a
there's
lot of driving in it, so
a
I
lot
feel
of
like
driving.
that sort of counts.
So Uh, so though, I mean, so they're okay. I kind of just prefer a slightly different genre on that. So, but yeah, so I've kind of steered clear of the mojo kind of feels of the Fast and the Furious. Never been a big fan of, and so to take that IP and say, hey, we're going to take that IP that I'm not interested in, and we're going to attach it to a car game, which or a car experience, which I'm mildly interested in, isn't a big bell ringer for me.
Right. Yeah, there's really just limited appeal for me for this game. However, what I think is interesting about it, and I think take I would like to bring to this is that's maybe a little bit different than what everyone's doing, is what's interesting to me is this is compared to the other games Arcade One is putting out, a much newer game than what we're used to seeing from them. I mean, they were putting out, Atari cabinets and things like that. And then we broke into the 90s with Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter and NBA Jam. This is jumping us a lot further ahead doing a Fast and the Furious game. So while I'm not interested in its cabinet, I am interested in kind of what your thoughts are on less and less retro versions of games.
Um, so I mean, I guess it to me takes away one piece of the appeal. So if you're bringing in home arcade of some sort, whether Arcade One Up, Legends Ultimate, whatever you're kind of looking to do, it's this combination of, oh, I brought an arcade experience into my house, so that's one kind of cool, interesting thing. But then the other part is I'm tapping back into some nostalgia and some interesting things there that you just for current issue games, it's there's that whole nostalgia piece is gone. So it's just like, hey, how'd you like to play a smaller version of what you like to play in the arcade now at home? Which, is still, there's some value prop there, no doubt. But I just think it's a stronger one when you're saying, hey, these aren't as available anymore. So if you want to re-experience it, and there's not a lot of ways to do it, the retro gaming one, although there's like a billion ways to experience the Atari experience, we've talked about that a lot. But I just, it's an interesting shift, and so it'll be Arcade One Up's been very successful in hitting in the retro genre, and so now when they just say, hey, we're just looking to kind of extend current experience there. But boy, I tell you, a lot of a for me, a retro game can handle being scaled down a little bit, whether it's in the actual form factor or screen resolution or sound or all that. Retro games, it's less of an impact to, as you think about the current experiences and all that, they're so much more sophisticated, so much more higher resolution, bigger sound, uh, greater complexity. I just think for a home unit, it's going to be hard to recreate all of that and keep the price point in the ballpark of what home units have
Yeah.
been going for.
Yeah, I think you're gonna run into those price point issues. Also, too, I think you're gonna run into something because this, I Fast and the Furious is not a new game, but it's not retro in the way we would think of retro. Thinking about, games that are at least 20, 25 years old, things like that. Um, I think you're getting into that weird category that doesn't work as retro games too. So when PlayStation put out the PlayStation Classic, one of the many problems that system had is those games don't look good now. Those were those kind of early polygon games that haven't aged well because the technology for that kind of stuff was new and they were still kind of experimenting and learning it. So those games really don't look great. Even if that was a much better presentation, the games wouldn't look any better on there. The retro sprite based games that most of these cabinets include, those age pretty well because they're kind of cartoonish animated looking characters. And in the case of something like Mortal Kombat, it's digitized actors. So, it looks like the actors look. So there's no aging of the image that's on there, so to speak. So now you're getting into something where those earlier 3D games just don't look as good.
Yeah, nothing. There's none of them are uh, Virtual Boy quality. you know, But
Really, that's what it comes down to. We want a Virtual Boy, and I want a Jaguar Mini.
Jaguar Mini, yeah, yeah. And I want a scaled down Virtual Boy so that I have to kind of lay on the floor and look through it with one eye, and just do that. But yeah, that's what we need. And you're getting back into that retro space and all. But yeah, because it just I think as the sophistication continues to go, sometimes the home translation is going to be hard for stuff, and then plus so many of a lot of the newer experiences too. The cabinet becomes like a major part of the experience because you're enclosed in something, or there's just a lot of very specific gear. We're not going to re-enter the whole "are bike handles needed for paperboy" debate, but there are some very game specific accoutrements, particularly in the newer games, that it's going to be very hard to translate that to the home market. But,
and I think you're going to run into another issue like they did with Terminator. This isn't just a licensed game. This is kind of a licensed entire IP that's associated with the movie. So I wouldn't be surprised that there's no other games on this. This is just Fast and the Furious, just like happened with Terminator.
Yeah, which kind of further limits the value. I mean, some folks really want, hey, this is a replica of the game, so I'm okay that it's minimal additional ones, but I mean, it depends kind of what you're going for. But we've talked at length on a lot of things in the past in terms of what Mike's doing with kind of build a full arcade experience, and so a limited number of game is fine because there's one right next to it that's got another set. And then I've gone more the multi-cater route with the Legends Ultimate, which is great experience as well, and add a light gun to it, and so you get you can generate a lot of same experiences, but it depends what you're trying to do. But I think it'll be interesting to see how well this performs versus the retro catalog, and what is all on that system when you get it.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be seen. It is interesting because we're jumping way ahead now in sort of the era of gaming that we're talking about. So I would really have to rack my brain to see if there's anything that I would be interested in from that era. I'm just still fingers crossed that we get a House of the Dead, or, and this is the longest of long shots, a Carnival cabinet.
That'd be all right. I think if they're going for IP, they need to go back for a driving game. They need to go back to Duel, and I think building a video game based on Duel, and I'll be good with that. But we'll have to see what comes out. I mean, it's nice that they remain active. It's interesting. At Games seems to be going the route of almost more hardware expansion. Hey, we're going to give you more options and different kinds of experience, different kinds of capabilities of it. Still kind of all nestled within that At Games infrastructure, where Arcade 1-Up, who's been more successful, is kind of shifting now to at least starting to offer some other types of offerings. So, and their systems are getting bigger, a lot of them, and as is the price tag. So,
yeah, that's the other thing. Is this going to cost $1,000 for the one game?
I can't see how it does it. I mean, I don't see this coming in and say, oh yeah, this one's
$4.99
for $4.99. No,
yeah,
I don't see that. I don't see that happening.
No. Well, it'll be interesting to see how it all progresses, though.
No doubt.
Look how focused we were.
That's amazing. We actually
nailed it.
Talked about the topic we planned on. No context for the rest of you folks, but this was a miracle, folks. Thanks for watching.
Thanks, everybody.
Bog Panda.